Before you scroll away, before your thumb decides this is just another story, let me ask you something. Have you ever noticed how easy it is for the world to look right through someone who needs help the most? Stay with me until the end, because this story might change the way you see people forever. And if stories that touch your heart matter to you, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss one that could change a life. It was the kind of morning that made the city feel colder than it really was. The sky hung low and gray, like it was tired of watching people rush past one another without seeing a thing. At the crowded bus terminal downtown, hundreds of strangers moved in every direction, eyes glued to phones, coffee cups in hand, minds already exhausted before the day had even begun. In the middle of all that movement sat a woman in a wheelchair, her hands resting protectively over her pregnant belly, her face pale with a mix of fatigue and quiet hope. Her name was Mara. Mara had learned long ago how to make herself small. Not physically, because the wheelchair made that impossible, but emotionally. She kept her eyes lowered, her shoulders slightly hunched, as if apologizing for taking up space in a world that never asked her if she needed room. The wheelchair wasn't new, neither was the way people pretended not to see her. But being pregnant had added a new layer of vulnerability, one that made every stare and every act of indifference cut deeper. She had arrived early, hoping she could find a seat near the boarding gate. Sitting upright for long periods made her back ache, and the baby pressed against nerves that sent sharp reminders through her body. But every bench was full. Some people were scrolling endlessly, others laughing, some arguing on the phone. A few glanced at her, their eyes flicking quickly to her belly, then to the wheelchair, then away again. No one moved, no one offered a chair, no one asked if she was okay. Mara told herself not to expect anything. Expectation was dangerous. Expectation led to disappointment. Still, as the minutes dragged on and her legs began to tremble from the strain of staying upright, she felt a familiar sting behind her eyes. She swallowed it down. She always did. She thought about how she ended up here. About the accident 3 years earlier, when a drunk driver ran a red light and changed everything. About the doctors who said she might never walk again, and the man who said he couldn't stay. About the long nights when she cried into a pillow, wondering if life had quietly passed her by. And then, unexpectedly, about hope, small, fragile hope, when she found out she was pregnant. This baby wasn't planned, but it was wanted. Deeply, fiercely. This baby gave her a reason to keep showing up, even when the world looked away. A loud announcement echoed through the terminal, snapping her back to the present. Her bus would be boarding soon. She adjusted her bag, wincing as a dull pain spread across her lower back. She glanced around one more time, not really hoping anymore, just checking. Still nothing. People stood inches away from her, leaning on empty walls, guarding their seats like territory. That's when she noticed him. He looked just as tired as everyone else, maybe more. A man in his early 30s, wearing a worn jacket and holding the hand of a little girl with messy hair and sleepy eyes. A backpack hung from one shoulder, and there were dark circles under his eyes that suggested life hadn't been gentle with him either. He was juggling a coffee, his daughter's stuffed rabbit, and a phone that wouldn't stop buzzing. A single dad, anyone could tell. His daughter tugged at his hand and whispered something. He leaned down to listen, and then, his eyes lifted. They landed on Mara. Unlike the others, he didn't look away. He took her in, the wheelchair, the belly, the tight grip she had on the armrests, the exhaustion she was trying so hard to hide. Something shifted in his expression. He didn't hesitate. He didn't overthink. He simply acted. He guided his daughter to stand beside him, then reached for the chair he had been sitting on. It was one of the few available, positioned near an outlet he clearly needed. Without a word, he pulled it out, carried it over, and placed it gently in front of Mara. "Please," he said softly, his voice steady but kind. "You should sit." For a moment, Mara just stared at him. Her brain struggled to catch up with what was happening. People didn't do this. Not usually. Not for her. I'm okay, she said automatically, the reflex of someone who had learned not to ask for more. He smiled, not the rushed, polite kind, but a real one. "You don't have to be," he said. "My legs work fine. Yours have been working overtime already." Her breath hitched. Slowly, carefully, she transferred herself onto the chair. The relief was immediate and overwhelming. She hadn't realized how much pain she was in until it eased. Her shoulders relaxed, and before she could stop herself, tears spilled over. "Oh, no," he said quickly, panicking a little. I didn't mean to make you cry. They're not bad tears, she managed, laughing softly through them. Thank you. His daughter looked up at Mara with wide eyes. My daddy says babies can hear when people are nice, she said seriously. So your baby heard him. Mara laughed again, this time more freely. Then my baby says thank you too. The man chuckled, rubbing the back of his neck. I'm Eli, he said. This is Sophie. Mara, she replied. Nice to meet you. They stood there talking. Well, she sat, and he stood, about nothing and everything. About buses that were always late. About how uncomfortable pregnancy could be. About how Sophie was convinced her stuffed rabbit needed its own ticket. For the first time that day, Mara felt normal. Not invisible, not like a burden, just human. When boarding was announced, Eli helped clear a path so Mara could move forward more easily. People stepped aside now, some looking embarrassed, others pretending nothing had happened. He waited until she was settled, until staff assured her they would assist her onto the bus. As they parted ways, Mara felt something warm settle in her chest. It wasn't love, it wasn't even friendship, it was something simpler and rarer, faith. Faith that kindness still existed in small, quiet moments. Months later, after her baby was born healthy and strong, Mara would think back to that morning often. On days when exhaustion threatened to swallow her whole. On days when the world still felt unkind. She would remember the man who saw her when no one else did, and the chair that changed more than just her posture. And Eli, walking hand in hand with his daughter through life's chaos, would never know how that simple act became a lifeline for someone who needed it desperately. He would just keep teaching Sophie what kindness looked like, one small moment at a time. So if you're still watching, remember this, sometimes the smallest gesture can carry the greatest weight. Sometimes pulling out a chair can lift a heart. If this story touched you, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. You never know who might need the next story you help share.